Welcome back to another interview on the Great Rabino. I'm excited to have assistant coach at Princeton, Lauren Battista, with us. Lauren, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So she's normally at Princeton, but because of COVID, is currently in Boston. So practices are shut down. Likely no season, at least in the Ivy Leagues, right? I think some of the men's have said season. Have women? Is there going to be women's basketball?
We will see. It's to be determined. Right now, we are basically shut down through the fall semester, and probably the earliest we'd be able to do anything is January. The rest of Division One is a little bit different on that front, so we'll be a little bit behind if we do get back on the court. But looking forward to hopefully something. We'll see.
So I think we all sort of know what will happen. There'll either be a season or there won't be a season or a modified season, sort of like we're seeing in different sports, every sport and
Yeah.
campus, depending on how they can handle it. But I'm really curious, maybe you could help. What about scouting? So I assuming some of the players senior year, they are going to play, some won't. Are you just getting an influx of like tapes? Well, I call them tapes because that's what we did when we were when I was a kid. But are you getting like YouTube videos sent to you? Are people like having mock tryouts on video? What is that experience like?
Yeah, it's been pretty unique this summer. I mean, we're very lucky in that our 2021 class of commitments, so the current seniors, we already have our equipments. So that helps out a lot, but it definitely was hard for them in the spring when everything got shut down. And, that's when you would visit campuses and, get to know players and staffs, and that kind of got taken away from them. So luckily we're a little bit ahead of the game there. But I will say for the younger classes that we're looking at now, definitely a ton of virtual live streaming, film, highlight clips, you name it. We definitely get a lot of emails, and there's been a lot of events actually happening in person, which has been for us wild to imagine because we've been shut down since March. But a lot of the AAU tournaments this summer that normally we would attend in person happened, but without, the coaches and kind of the abundance of fans and things like that. So just sitting at a computer watching it from afar. It's been different for sure, but people have adapted to the situation.
And I imagine Princeton's in a little different situation than like, let's say, South Carolina or Tennessee or UConn, of course. But
Yeah.
So when I used to live up by Columbia campus, and I used to play mostly with the men, but sometimes the women's players would use, back then, at least in Ivy League, they were allowed to still scrimmage. There were no rules against scrimmaging the local people, just wanted to play pickup. And I just remember seeing their practice hours and the amount of balancing on an Ivy League schedule, both in terms of school. So I imagine the recruitment is different. And so you also have to measure, like, academically, are they going to be able to handle this?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that is a big piece. They obviously have to be able to withstand that basketball checklist of you need to be able to do X, Y, and Z, but even more important, you need to have the grades, have the test scores, be committed to that side of, the academic side as well. Because I think Ivy League, Princeton, those schools, the great thing about them is they truly have that balance. But you also have that high level of being a Division I college athlete and going to some of the best schools in our country. So both are extremely demanding on your time, and it's finding that student athlete who wants the challenge and wants to be great in all aspects of life. And I think once you find that right person, it's truly an easy sell for sure. We're in a great spot, great school, great basketball program. But yeah, the recruiting piece, there's definitely that added little speed bump to try to overcome with recruits.
And sleep is optional.
Sleep is optional, but they get their sleep. We encourage our players to sleep, nap, all that good stuff.
So let's talk about what was, I imagine, really tough, especially for you and the program. You went on a 22-game winning streak last year, 26-1, best season, I believe, in Princeton women's basketball history, probably in men's basketball too, probably the greatest season in Princeton sports in a long, long time. And your historic run was cut short. What was that atmosphere like? How the players take it? How the coaches take it? Are most of those players return? Did they get some extra time of eligibility? How does that work? And
Yeah,
what was the atmosphere in the locker room?
it was emotional for sure. That week when things started getting shut down in the NBA, and then it was, the NCAA tournament without fans, and then it was spring sports got canceled, and we were kind of just hanging by a thread because announcements kept coming out, but it was hopeful that we would at least be able to finish our current season. So, the day before the announcement, spring sports got canceled. And so the vibe on campus was really sad, down in the dumps. Our players just felt awful for their friends on other sports teams that weren't going to be able to compete. But we still had our, hopes alive, tournament coming up, whatever, practiced that afternoon. Didn't realize that would have been our last practice of the season, because the next day we got the announcement from our athletic director that, the NCAA tournament was canceled. The Ivy League championship was basically like the first conference tournament to get canceled, which meant our season was over. So at first, definitely sad emotions, tears for sure from everybody. I mean, it was just after what a great season we had, and you do your body of work to prepare for the postseason, right? I mean, that's what all the hard work and dedication is for. And so we actually have 2 seniors that graduated. One is Bella Allery, who ended up getting selected as the 5th draft pick in the WNBA, our all-time leading scorer, 3-time Ivy League Player of the Year, All-American. I mean, the best that Princeton women's basketball has ever seen on an individual standpoint. And so her career ended like that. And then our other senior, other captain, an amazing career as well, just the epitome of a leader, and her career ends like that. I mean, the silver lining for them was that Bella is still playing. She played on the wings this season, the WNBA, and now she's overseas. And then Taylor, our other senior, she had a 5th year of eligibility, so she'll be able to exercise that this year if it happens. But for the rest of the team, it was just motivation to play and train and prepare for next season for those 2 that weren't going to be able to live out, hopefully, one of our best runs in the postseason in Princeton history. So yeah, once that settled, I think we actually got to reflect on how great our season was, because about, I think, 2 or 3 days after that announcement, everyone had to leave campus. So
Right.
Players are moving out, going home. Not only is their season over, their college spring is over. That's one of the most fun times of year. So once we were able to get over that traumatic turn of events, we got to get together one last time and just reflect on how much we accomplished. And even though it was cut short, it still was incredible. It still will be, one of the best seasons in program and Ivy League history. And there's a lot to be proud of. So in a long-winded answer, that's how it went down. Still, that was the last time we were all together since that, since then. It's been 7 months now, and it's just a lot of this, a lot of Zooms, a lot of FaceTimes, and occasionally you'll see, a couple of people if you're in the area or whatnot, but not the full team.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone who dedicates their life to a sport, and I think maybe more basketball than.
I'm not sure I understand.
Do you want me to explain?
Sorry, my watch was recording what I was saying.
Oh, there you go.
Respond to
well, that's
that.
the AI is always listening to us. Now, I was saying that I think you have when you have your last game, especially in basketball, I think it's really prevalent. Maybe football too, although I didn't really play football, but I remember my last game, and I can only imagine if that was ripped from me. I mean, the emotions I had from playing it were enough to make me in tears, let alone having it just come to an end like that. It's just, but luckily both are in situations in which for your team that they can continue winning and continue playing. But you are not unfamiliar with long winning streaks. So your college days, and I told you I was going to put this up, right?
Yeah.
Let's see if I get it.
Let's bring it back in history for a second.
I don't need. Okay, Bentley Falcons, not known for their basketball prowess, at least on a national level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, but 35-0. You were voted National Player of the Year by the WBCA. What is that experience like, going from a team like that, which dominated all aspects of the game, and you were the focal point, to now being the coach of a team doing similar work, one blemish, but similar work, but you're in a totally different role. And then I'll take down the ridiculous white green that you can see on my hat too.
I love it. It definitely, I mean, that experience at Bentley will forever be one of the best experiences of my life, to play for a team that just functions at such a high level. And, I think as a coach now, what's great about that experience is I can speak firsthand to the things that make a team successful and to be a championship caliber team. The trust, the communication, the chemistry on and off the court. I mean, those are the things that you don't see necessarily in a box score or, when you come to watch a game, but they're the things going on behind the scenes that makes that finished product you see on the court what it is. It definitely differentiates, a good team from a championship caliber program. From the coaching staff to the trainers, to the players, to the managers, everyone needs to be on board and, aiming for that same goal. And I think that's what my Bentley experience was all about. I know it's not necessarily the UConn type, brand recognition that they have for women's basketball, but for Division II and for the Northeast, that's the reputation that program has, and that our head coach there, Barbara Stevens, has for herself as a Hall of Fame coach. And that's what she expects from her players every single year. And I think I was just extremely lucky to be surrounded by people like myself who just wanted to achieve as much as humanly possible and to put, individual success aside for, the ultimate team accomplishment. And I think as a coach at Princeton, it's the same type of player and person that we're dealing with, just really great, well-rounded people that want to be successful. They want to, of course, all of them probably want to score 20 points or whatnot, but they know that at the end of the day, that's not what really matters. What matters is that we're winning, we're accomplishing our goals, we're taking steps forward as a program, and we're all getting better because of that. So it's been a great transition. It's definitely easy to walk into a program that was so storied and successful at Princeton and just keep that momentum going forward in the right direction. But all credit to just our players, because they embody everything that, that we preach and that we find that successful teams have.
All right, so we talked a little bit about college. Then you graduated summa cum laude, Boston, now let's call you a championship team in Princeton, even though they weren't. Right? Okay, so you got the pedigree, and Lauren, I can only imagine where your career is headed, and it looks incredibly bright from the basketball, whether college, pro, whatever you want to do. I want to talk about having two brothers.
All right.
So I had a younger sister, and she was a great basketball player in high school. And I just remember, I don't know if they're tall, but I was a lot taller. And I just remember forcing her to have to shoot over me. I was never going to let her have a shot. And then when she finally was able to do it, we were a lot of fun in the playground, right? Like the people could not understand, right? So how much did I believe you're one of three kids, two older brothers?
Yep, older twin brothers.
Older twins. How much did they play basketball, and how much did that help you? Did they push you to be as good as you were? And I don't mean that in brothers, but I often feel like the youngest sibling has to play up, right? Because there's no one to play down with.
Definitely. So there's a 6-year gap between us, so it's pretty big. So basically, I was the little sister at all their basketball games growing up that had her own ball, and at halftime would go out and they're 10 and I'm 4, right? I can't even hit the basketball hoop yet, but trying until eventually the day comes and I actually make it in the basket for the first time. So I will say that, their involvement in sport definitely encouraged me to pursue that path as well, just because that's what I grew up knowing is that. And then by the time I got really, I would say, into it at a competitive level, I was 10 or 12 and they're almost off, graduating high school and going to college, but fully always supporting me along the way. I mean, I remember going in the driveway, and I don't know if we were quite the one-on-one kind of family just because that gap was so big, but, horse and shooting competitions and around the world and stuff like that. I mean, there's no way they're going to just let their 6-year younger little sister, beat them. I remember going to one of their high school, I don't even know, it was like a banquet for some activity they were involved in, and they wanted to all play pickup. These are high school people. And I'm at the time probably in 5th grade, just getting into basketball, and I wanted to play too. Like, come on, I'm a basketball player. I'm 10 years old. Why not? So to get on the court, you had to make a free throw, you know, normal pickup basketball rules, make your shot, you get to play. And I was like the second person to make the shot out of all the people in line. So I earned my spot. I got to play with them. But it's little things like that, you know, which just build that competitive drive, and definitely has been helpful. My family jokes that I'm kind of a combination of the two of them. You know, neither played basketball in college, but one played in high school and one played kind of just recreationally in high school and more competitively before that. And one's like a tough bruiser, like, you know, gets after it, not afraid to body people. And then the other one's a little bit more finesse, was an awesome shooter, had that little, you know, I don't know, Larry Bird to his game. And I like to think that I kind of have a combination of their skill sets. So definitely learned it from watching them.
I believe heavily, like if you have to play up, doesn't matter if it's brothers, sisters, parents, whatever, you eventually figure it out. And that's the best way to train in anything, not just sports. But I you know, watching the sort of competitor you are and the way your teams perform, you have to have that, like, you have to have a certain drive, because the people it comes too naturally for, they don't earn it. I mean, they earn it, but it's a different way. It's a different, okay, so this was great. Thank you so much for your time and expertise. I hope there's a season.
Me too.
And it'd be great to get, I mean, baseball's meant so much to people just as a, you know, a mental escape from being sheltered in, as sports are so essential. I think we're all learning that now, and we can do it safely. So thank you for your time, and we'll hopefully be in touch in the future.
Yes, I love that. I appreciate you reaching out and getting to talk to you.
Go Tigers.
Yes, go Tigers.